Hi, I'm Katherine Ramsland, and I want to tell you about what it's like to have been an executive producer for a show that I proposed and created. I was in a unique opportunity um, to be able to pitch some things to a friend that I had met on a writer's cruise who worked for Sony. And he asked me to pitch some ideas, which meant I had to make a whole list of all kinds of things. And at the bottom of the list, I had put something I thought was crazy and would just make him laugh, maybe Murder House Flip. And the idea was HGTV meets CSI. And, I just thought it was very whimsical. But he immediately wanted me to develop it, get some, give them ideas for shows. So I started doing a lot of research on houses that had murders or suicides in them, and um, I found things all over the country. Really, that was fun. It was interesting. I didn't know that it was going to really go anywhere, but in fact, it really caught on, and I had the opportunity to pitch it to multiple studios. Many people said it was a very unique idea, and it was. And the idea was, we actually evolved. The idea evolved. It was going to be, I think we had kind of a tagline of something like uh, I can't even remember exactly what it was, but I know it had involved saging. So bringing in some kind of a, medium or something and, saging and then selling. That was the original idea, which and certainly involved to be basically, and then we knew we couldn't buy all these properties and flip them. So it was really Murder House Makeover, even though it retained the title Murder House Flip. Um, and the idea was that you would take a house where a murder occurred, either somewhere in the house or in the yard, and healed the murder space by giving them this really fabulous renovation. So that was very cool. We needed to find someone who wanted to make that and also fund it because that would be, I think each person each house was going to get considerable renovation, and it wasn't all over the house, just the murder spot area. Although some of them also got really fabulous yards. So I came up with a lot of episodes, so many episodes. And as the team grew, I think we had three executive producers. And this is where I really learned what it meant to be an executive producer. Um, I was allowed to watch the casting sessions where they brought in all kinds of people, and they had mediums who were going to stage it, and they had interior designers who are going to make determinations about how the space should be redone. I think we had a realtor, or so there's so many different roles, and multiple people being brought in and trying out for the role. And then the executive producers would talk with the producers and the showrunner. And as we went along, the team got bigger and bigger. I think we had something like, by the end, I mean, it was something like 30 some people, but initially, maybe half a dozen, we would meet regularly to talk about who should be on these shows, who we liked. And in a way, my opinion, even though I had essentially pitched the idea, created the show, and gave them many, many episode ideas, they decided to limit it to the LA area and then kind of California. Although I think by the second season we had Arizona in there as well. So that stripped away many of my episode ideas, and they started doing research in their local area in Los Angeles. And this is also, we had some issues with COVID because some of this was happening then. It was just the early stages, but still, that made for considerable hurdles and expenses added. So, um, in the end, as an executive producer, I helped to write the descriptions of the shows, to approve the houses that we would do, to even though I watched all the casting sessions, I don't think anyone listened to me because they didn't cast the people that I thought they should cast. So I kind of found out a lot about being an executive producer. Doesn't really mean you have very much power, but you kind of get an insider's view, and that was fun. Um, maybe if I were a more jaded Hollywood person, I wouldn't think it was that fun, but it showed me how these shows get constructed, how hard it is to find funders. And even then, when we sold it 3 different times, but I know, and I won't name names, but one of the places had decided to remove the whole renovation angle and just do murder houses. And that, no, this was a unique, very unique show. Everybody we pitched to said that. So we were willing to pass on, pretty big buyer because they wanted to take away the vision. And we were taking a big risk because we'd invested. By this time, it was probably a year and a half in, because it is time consuming. Probably a year and a half in before I think there was this very innovative thing that Steven Spielberg was part of. Katzenberg was kind of his baby, called Quibi, and it was shows made for smartphones essentially. So really quick pockets of episodes. So each episode was going to be in 3 parts, and each part was like 8 minutes long, something like that. And it was all, it was very exciting. I think we did 6 houses, and it was fabulous. We started with the house of a serial killer, a female serial killer, a boarding house. And at that time, the owners didn't want to really renovate the space because the house was so infamous. But she had buried bodies in the yard, so I asked if they want a new yard, and yeah, they did, and we gave them a really fabulous one. But then, so everything was set, and then COVID really hit, and everything shut down, and people weren't, you know, going out watching their phones; they were staying home. So Quibi kind of went by the wayside. But then Roku purchased everything Quibi had, all the shows, and that gave us a second season. So by the time we were done, we had 10 houses, and so it's a very unique show. You can, if you have a Roku device or account, you can watch it for free. It was a lot of fun to do, but I really learned the role, and just because I had pitched the show did not earn me the title of show creator. I'm definitely there as an executive producer, but by the time all was said and done, I think so many of the central people hardly even knew who I was, because I wasn't a Hollywood insider, and I wasn't part of the day to day getting all the show stuff ready. But it was great to work with a showrunner, to hear his vision, to watch this whole thing come together, and to be a show, and with 2 seasons. It was really fabulous. And because of that, I then went on to become executive producer on 2 documentaries that were based on my own books, and much less involved in those in terms of any kind of decision making, but still knowledge about what's behind the scenes. So that's my adventure as an executive producer of a show that I pitched and created, even though nobody else will say it. I'll say it. I created it, and was a big part of it. It was really an amazing experience for a writer. Thank you.